Hello, YouTube. I am now live and without a net. Um, I've been kind of working myself up to do this video for the last couple of days. Been wanting to like smoke a pipe with it, but kind of just didn't want to futz with it. So of course, once I eliminate the hurdle of smoking a pipe, I can just sit down and chat. That's why I didn't pick a YouTube handle that specifically referenced pipe smoking, so it could cover a lot of topics, like today's topic, letter writing. Now, I said in my last video I was going to talk about letter writing, and I've always believed that if you make a promise in a previous segment, you see it through in the next segment. It's like reading like an old Marvel comic or something like that. And next issue, Galactus, the Planet Eater, and you better next issue of the Fantastic Four, you better have Galactus, the Planet Eater there. Otherwise, you're doing a disservice to your fans. Anyway, letter writing. Yeah, I honestly have to say, letter writing is instead of becoming the great American writer writing the great American novel, um, I really just enjoy writing letters. Don't know what it is. I discovered it when I went down to school. Ooh, a whole 60 miles away, down at Becker Junior College. Becker is now a 4-year school. It was a 2-year school at the time, but you know, it was 60 miles away, which for me was like I might as well have been going across the country, even though it's basically still local. But it was the first step in my like exploding the battleship chains that pretty much connected me to my, well, let's face it, suffocating mom. I mean, just the way it was. She was very very like to keep me close, and this was sort of my way of like getting the hell out of Dodge. So I went to school, and in order to keep in touch with people, I'd started writing letters like almost at a frantic pace, almost at an obsessively compulsive pace. And I started getting letters back, and it was a great affirmation, of getting mail. Wow, this is really cool. So of course I wrote back, put the stamp on, and off it went. And ever since graduating from college, I just kind of continued it. And all the while, I've been writing a journal. So writing this is sort of like the next, almost like a public journal that you write. You know, parts of yourself that you share with people. And I don't know. I guess one of the reasons why I like letter writing so much is that it's a very private way to communicate with people. A very private, solitary way to communicate with people. There's no pressure to socialize. You can just sit at your desk, get out the paper, and write a letter. And let's face it, who doesn't like getting a letter instead of a bill type thing? And a lot of you, a lot of you in the YTPC, have you've been the recipient of some of my mail. And I don't know, for me, for me, letter writing is, I don't know, it's the best way I know of centering myself. I mean, am always going through my address book, saying, who could I write now? Who can I write now? Who haven't I talked to? It's kind of my way of communicating, bonding. I guess in a sense, mythologizing my life. I guess you could say, because maybe writing in the journal and writing letters is a way to, I don't know. I guess basically it's a way to sidestep the responsibility and the work that comes with like being a short story writer, that kind of thing. So that's what I do. I just put a pen to paper, talk to, picture the person in front of me, and then I just start writing. And I have to say, I really like doing it. It centers me, and it just, I don't know, just the thought of the pen on paper, the scritching of the pen on paper, and the whole ritual of, oop, Willie's biting Bill upstairs. um, the ritual of putting pen to paper, the address label on the left hand corner and the stamp on the right hand corner. Um, I don't know, it gives me a charge. And I can just imagine myself dropping a whole pile of letters. You just imagine it like it's a movie, dropping a whole pile of letters into a mailbox, those blue things you see that goes down the chute, and just picture a pile just bouncing off the other mail there, and those letters all going their own separate ways with separate destinations, like I don't know, England, the Netherlands, Minnesota, that kind of thing. They all just scatter with my words on them. So I don't know if it's I don't know, it's got to be some form of ego. It really, really does. A way of trying to make myself larger than life. But what the hell? I enjoy it. It's compulsive. It can't be wrong. Uh, and I've got some people writing to me eventually. Like, I've some very, very good friends. They've gotten into a correspondence rhythm with me, and so we keep it going back and forth like a game of volleyball and a game of tennis. Right? There's nothing more magical to me than a letter in an envelope or a card that's just jetting its way to whoever. And no, I just enjoy doing it. I have to say, it used to bother me that people never wrote back, but then I came to realize that it's not really about them. It's kind of about me. It's about my communicating with them, the pleasure that it gives me. And the weapons of choice when I write a letter are the G2 Pilot Pen, right there. G2 Pilot Pen. It's a gel pen and it smooths very nicely and dries very quickly. It's not as rough as a ballpoint. I've been known to write with ballpoint before, but this is the one I keep going back to. It's not as fussy as a what's the word I'm looking for? The kind that Charlie always uses. Come on, it's not as fussy as a fountain pen. And I liked writing with a fountain pen. I liked what it felt, but it's just very, very fussy to put the cartridge in and everything like that. But Charlie, he's another pipe man out of Kentucky. That's all he does is write letters. I mean, he must write dozens a day because he's got a little writing box. He's got like a whole bunch of fountain pens. He has his preferred fountain pens and he just loves writing and it shows. As a matter of fact, I'll show you one of his letters right now. Block his address out. Go over to the letter pile. Letters go right down in here. It's raining out. There you go. And he writes stream of consciousness letters too. So it's just kind of like he kind of writes in an interior monologue, which is you kind of like follow it. And you let your mind kind of go loose because that's the way his writing is. It's very loose and very, very it goes wherever. And yeah. So to that end, of course, I really like writing Christmas cards. So I create my own. I do that punk ethos of if you don't like the Christmas cards that are on offer, then make your own. So I do. For example, pick out this master copy of the one I made last year. It's what is it? It's a pastiche on Adventure Comics number 247, I believe. It was like Superboy's introduction. It was the introduction of the Legion of Superhero to Adventure Comics. Superboy was the star, and originally the Legion of Superheroes, Cosmic Boy, Saturn Girl, and Lightning Lad. They're rejecting him because his powers are too ordinary, and this is the judgment board that he was on. So I put myself there, and I created my own situation. And there you have last year's Christmas card. I don't know. I have to say, writing letters, rather than waste money on stationery, I make my own. Go to Hobby Lobby or any craft store. Get yourself some blank paper stock like this. Pull up some internet imagery. You glue it onto the card, and then you Mod Podge it. Mod Podge it is basically like a clear, I don't know, a clear card type thing. It's like a clear finishing product. It leaves you with a little bit of luster. You can see the shine there, and you do that, and you mail them out. I make a whole bunch. So I have like a whole bunch ready, and of course some blank memo paper because if you run out of room in the card, you basically continue it on paper and then go. I have a kit that I take along with me, like just like letter writing paper, a few pens, some stamps, and the address book, of course, is on this very phone. And, no, I honestly have to say that if I don't write the great American novel, there's probably piles of letters out there that I've written to many people across the world and probably in garbage cans or stuffed into books or whatever. But no, it's just something that I really like doing, and I'm probably going to continue to do it because I don't know. It really just centers me. It allows me the chance to put my thoughts onto paper, I guess. It can be anything from formal to stream of consciousness myself. Again, it all depends on the recipient too. So everything from a Father's Day card to a few lines to like meandering stream of consciousness thoughts about the latest book I just read from whatever author. So yeah, I'm just gonna bring this to your attention right here, just to let you know how two books. Ugh, let's see if I can get this out without pulling everyone out. Neither Snow Nor Rain, a history of the U.S. Postal Service, which is very educational, and the more philosophical one, To the Letter. Basically gives you the history of the letter's written form over the years. And the one thing I did learn is that the British Postal Service gave us the concept of a post office, and it was through King Henry and his paranoia that he developed a postal system to get his letters all across England and all across the world. Because back then in the day, it was very, it was normal for letters to be rifled through and intercepted and read and by spies and whatnot. So, but yeah, in this age of texting, in this age of social media, which I do pay way too much attention to. I love my social media, but for me, the real communication is the letter. Even more than a phone call. I hate phone calls. I hate them. I run from them. I hide from them. Don't call me ever. um, Email me. I mean, I don't expect everyone to write a letter, but I see I see that phone call. It's like unless it's like an emergency or someone I want to talk to, I just kind of let it ring, and then get back to you with a text. But anyway, I guess you can only do what you're compelled to do, and I like letter writing, so I will just continue it and hope that people enjoy it. I'd like to see it come back again eventually. I'm just happy the people that do return my letters do, because it's amazing to me that that's how people communicated once upon a time. But even before telephones, I mean, entire empires ran on the movement of paper across ships, across oceans, letters. I mean, hell, the later, well, for example, this one's kind of for Duncan. The later arrival of a letter, if a certain letter had arrived on time, the whole slaughter at Culloden, not Culloden, I apologize, Glencoe probably would not have happened. The king was telling his troops not to slaughter the Highlanders that were up there. Don't, but the letter arrived late, if memory serves correctly. So, I mean, people's destinies have ridden on the arrival or the late arrival of a letter. Hell, even when I met my husband Bill, when I first met him, we had our first date, and I was going down to Florida to visit somebody, and I wrote him a letter. And I was there in Florida for a week, having fun. Hello, whoever you are. As I'm live, someone checked in. Um, Wrote him a letter saying, "Oh, I really had a good time. I'd like to see you again eventually." Blah blah blah. And I sent it to. I dropped a letter in the mail, and that was it. I had a week. I had a good time. Then I come back and email him. I had 2 trips during the 1 week stay. I never even made it home between the 2 trips, so I was out of the house for a week. I get an email from him saying, he was kind of a distraught email because he really liked me and he wanted to see me again. It's like, you left me hanging here. And I'm like, didn't you get the letter that I sent? And no, come to find out, the letter ended up going to Fort Lauderdale first and then bouncing up to New Hampshire. So he didn't get it until way after I came back. But anyway, I'm going on for 15 minutes here, so I'm gonna draw it down. I suggest that you watch this video while you're doing something, like either going online or something like this. Um, but yeah, if you've been thinking about sending a letter to somebody, and just go ahead and do it. It just takes a pad of paper and an envelope and a stamp. That whole thing. You don't even need a address label or anything like that. Just go ahead and do it. Write out your thoughts. Maybe some will be. It's like picking out a card in the store. You kind of do it because you have to do it, but a letter you write because you want to write it, and you should be inspired to write a letter. You should have to want to say something or say hello or something like that. It's a very pure form of communication for me. So, all right, folks.